All right, West Virginia fans, it's decision time around Morgantown. West Virginia has a lot of decisions to make about their current roster going into the next season. We're on a bye week this week, so they're going to get a head start at the offseason. So I wanted to put out a video on who I think the top 10 players are that West Virginia must retain going into next season. Before we do that, just a friendly reminder, please remember to like and subscribe to JerseyEER. We really appreciate the support. If you consider yourself a diehard fan, definitely check our show out. With that being said, let's get into today's video. So the first player and number 10 on the countdown that I would try to retain is Nick Taylor. Nick Taylor is a defensive back who came over from Appalachian State. He has 2 years of eligibility left. He has done some decent things this year. He had an interception versus Utah. He has 19 total tackles. He's made some plays on special teams. And West Virginia, with where they're at defensively, are losing a lot of defensive backs. Michael Coach Jr. is going to be gone. Jason Chambers is going to be gone. I believe Scruggs is out of eligibility as well. I know Scruggs yesterday on X hinted at possibly having one more year. Could he apply for a waiver? Who knows? But Nick Taylor is someone that you know has 2 years of eligibility left. He's done some decent things. I look for him to get better. And like I said, with all the guys that you have to replace, it'd be nice to have one guy in place that you can count on to start in that defensive back room or at least be a depth piece. So I would start the countdown with Nick Taylor at number 10 as a player that West Virginia must retain going into next season. All right, number 9, I have Ben Bogle. Ben Bogle has done a lot of positive things, especially the second half of the season. Didn't get too much playing time in the beginning of the season, but by year's end, he's really made his mark and has done some quality things. He has played a lot of snaps in college football. Coming over in the transfer portal, he's a guy that logged a lot of snaps and played a lot of football, so that's something that appealed to West Virginia. So that experience is valuable. He registered 2 sacks versus Colorado. That was by far his best game. I think he had like another 7 tackles on top of that. So you saw the type of player that he has the potential to be in that Colorado game. And then this season, he's the 6th leading tackler. So he's a guy that's a junior that would have 1 more year of eligibility. And I definitely think that West Virginia should do all they can to bring him back. And like the yellow graphic says here, West Virginia is going to be losing Chase Wilson and Reed Carrico. So those are 2 big pieces to fill. I think you feel really good about Ben Bogle if you can bring him back if you're West Virginia. At number 8, we have Sincere Bowers. He has that 4.3 speed. You know, Rich Rodriguez absolutely loves speed, especially at that position. You saw what he could do yesterday, made people miss. And that's the type of player that we thought we were getting coming into the season. And he's shown flashes, but never really put it together up until yesterday. And then yesterday he had that big run. And that's what I expect from Sincere Bowers, is to have the home run plays like that, especially if we can get the offensive line right in front of him. West Virginia has had some problems with depth at running back this year, as we've seen, especially with the attrition at the position. So I would love to have Sincere back. I think the best football is in front of him, and I think he's going to continue to get better. So I would definitely try to bring back Sincere Bowers. He's number 8 on the list. Number 7, we have Rodney Gallagher. He can take carries and pass catch. We've seen him take those jet sweeps, and we've seen him catch passes. He's shown he can play in 2 different offenses, right? He played for Neil Brown, and then this year with Rich Rodriguez. His back-to-back seasons with 26 catches or more. So going into this video, he was at 26 catches this season, which matched his total last season. There's still 1 more game versus Texas Tech, so I would assume he's going to pass that number. Who knows? Maybe he can get 4 more catches and hit that 3rd number. And then the other thing with him is he's a long-time Mountaineer. You've seen the pictures of him floating around in the West Virginia uniforms growing up. So it means something for him to be a Mountaineer. He has 1 more year of eligibility left. So I love to see him finish his career at West Virginia. And I think he hasn't hit a ceiling yet. I know some people expected a bigger career from him, but there's still 1 more season. Like I said, you've seen what the offense can do later in the season. I think he can have another big role next year or an increased role next year. So I would definitely bring Rodney Gallagher back if I'm West Virginia. Number 6, we have Nick Cray. He would be a returning starter at left tackle next season, which is huge. West Virginia does not want to replace the entire offensive line again. That was by far the biggest struggle this season, trying to fit 5 different guys in who've never played starting football before and just throwing them out there. At least with Cray, he's played decent football on that left side. You know what you're getting with him. I expect him to get better in year 2 of Rich Rod's offense, and he has 2 years of eligibility remaining. I would definitely try to bring Cray back. And then speaking of offensive line, that's what gets us at number 5, which is Landon Livingston. He was West Virginia's representative at the Big 12 Media Days, so it shows what the starter at center next year. And going back to my point with Cray, West Virginia does not want to rebuild the entire offensive line again. They're definitely going to do some different things on the right side of the ball because, to be honest, that side this year was pretty atrocious. And we've seen missed blocks, but I think with the center position and left tackle position, we felt pretty good about those guys. So I would definitely bring Landon Livingston back, especially because of what we saw from the offensive line this year. You don't want to start over again. So Landon Livingston, number 5, I would bring him back in a heartbeat. All right, the other guy I would bring back on defense is Curtis Jones Jr., native, and that's important to guys. Guys want to play for the Flying W if they grew up in the state. So we want our best players to stay in West Virginia, and he's definitely one of them. He has 22 tackles this year and 1 sack and 1 forced fumble at that bandit position. He has shown that he can play both sides of the ball, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to win. Did not hesitate when Rich Rodriguez asked him to play running back, and he has 3 touchdowns this year, and he has 2 years of eligibility left. I think he's a guy that you saw a huge jump from in talent from one year to the next, and he's going to continue to get better. He's an important piece to have back. Curtis Jones Jr., let's make sure he finds his way back to Morgantown next season. Number 3, Scotty Fox Jr. He is the main reason why we have had a resurgence this last month of the season. He led us to victories versus Houston and Colorado. He has 2 300-yard games versus TCU and Arizona State. He's a true freshman learning on the fly, and he doesn't have much help around him with the offensive line. He's done this with a very shoddy offensive line and injured skill position pieces around him. So the fact that he has still been able to play high-quality football for a true freshman is super impressive. This guy was in high school a year ago playing high school football. Now he's in the Big 12 playing Power 4 football and throwing for over 300 yards in multiple games. So the future is bright for this kid. But the biggest question is going to be, is he the starter next season? I think he has the athletic ability to run Rich Rod's offense. We've seen it with his feet. We've seen it with the arm. But the question is, West Virginia really wants to win some games next year. Has Scotty Fox done enough to be the starter? In a perfect world, you might want to bring in a stopgap for 1 year. Bring a guy in that's a veteran that has won multiple games that really fits the Rich Rod offense. Let Scotty grow for a year, and then the next year, it's his offense moving forward. In a perfect world, I'd also be comfortable bringing him back as a starting quarterback at this point, too. It's a really tough decision that he's made interesting. And the only reason it's interesting is because of the way that he has played this last 5 games. Because if he was not playing well or below average or even average, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. It'd be, we're going to the portal for a quarterback. So I still think they will. It'll be interesting to see what quality of quarterback they bring in to compete with Scotty Fox. But either way, he's a true freshman, and you want to have him in the fold. You do not want this kid going into the portal by any means. I think if I'm Scotty Fox, his best position to be in is at West Virginia. He's already in a Power 4 program. He's already won games there. The grass is not always greener, right? And there's going to be a lot of competition for quarterbacks in the portal. Where would he fall in line this year? Who knows? Hopefully we don't have to worry about that. Hopefully he comes back to Morgantown and has a nice career with the West Virginia Mountaineers. Number 2, I have Jaheim White. back-to-back 800-yard seasons his freshman and sophomore season. We all know about that. He would absolutely explode in Rich Rod's run offense, in my opinion. We saw flashes of it against Ohio and Robert Morris this year. Unfortunately, his season was cut short due to that injury that he sustained in the Ohio game. Depth at running back was a major issue for West Virginia this season, as we all know, and we need to have this guy back. He's staying a West Virginia Mountaineer. He's a guy that seems loyal. I'm sure he has had options in the past to go, but ultimately found his way back to Morgantown. I think there's two lingering things with him, though, that are a little concerning. Injuries are a concern moving forward. He's coming off, I think, 2 knee surgeries now. So one more major injury, I don't know what that means for the rest of his career. So I want him back, but I am concerned about the injury history now with the most recent injuries. And then the next question is, will he be the same player when he returns? It seems like we have a great medical staff, and I've seen guys come back bigger and better than ever from injuries, but that's not always the case. So what type of player will he be when he returns? Hopefully he has an improved offensive line in front of him so we can really see him flourish. In my opinion, though, he's the number two guy on our entire team that we should bring back. He's that talented. The ceiling is high for this guy. If he does come back to where he was or close to where he was, I think he easily gets over 1,000 yards. This guy is important to bring back, Jaheim White at number 2. And then the number 1 guy I would bring back is Cam Vaughn. He's the team's leading receiver. He has explosive playmaking ability, as we've seen this year. He's played in Rich Rod's system multiple seasons. Jacksonville will drastically improve with more consistent offense. Let's face it, he was by far the West Virginia's number 1 receiver for the entire season. And he never really had a number 2 with him until later with Jeffrey Weimer that we've seen recently. So could you imagine if you go into the portal and you get another guy to go with him and pair him? He could take off. And then if the running game takes off like we think it can, when the offensive line's improved, his numbers should drastically go up. This is just scratching the surface on a tough year 1 in a rebuild. So my hope is that Cam Vaughn comes back to Morgantown and he can have another big season. If I'm being honest, he's the guy that I'm most nervous about losing because I think he has probably the most options, but I think his best options are still at West Virginia. So I hope you can retain him. I think it would answer a lot of questions in our offense, especially at that receiver position. So if I'm West Virginia, I do everything I can to make sure that Cam Vaughn remains a Mountaineer. And that's all I got. Again, just wanted to hop on here, give my 2 cents of the top 10 players. There's still a few guys here that are important that didn't make the list. Filippo, Asani Redwood, Israel Boyce, Ryan Ward. The list goes on. Ben Cutter. There's a bunch of guys besides this list that still I want to see in a Mountaineer uniform. But if I had to make 10, these would be the 10 that I would start with. And then you never know with the waiver situation. Like I said, Scruggs mentioned on X yesterday, hopeful for one more. What does that mean? Because if that's another year, Scruggs would definitely be on this list too. So really appreciate you guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Let's go Mountaineers. We'll talk to you guys soon.